sir. We're live here for UFC 302 over on the Rumer Sports YouTube channel. I got my guys Dan and JBC ready to break down this pay-per-view card for Makhachev, Poirier. Dan, I'll throw it off to you here first. It was your birthday last night. You're going to follow that up from a birthday. I mean, you said you had a late night kind of banger type situation, but you're going to follow that up with some winners, I think, today.
Yeah, man, gonna follow it up with some winners. Also going to the fights tonight. So, for not having anything planned for my birthday weekend, like 2 weeks out, things came together really nicely. So, I'm excited. I'm excited for the day. I'm excited to talk.
Oh, so you're going to the card? You didn't say you were going to the card today.
Oh, yeah,
sweet tickets.
Yeah, I like kind of toyed with the idea of going, and then one night I like decided on not going because I was like, it's really expensive. And then I was like, fuck it, let me like see if anyone's trying to like go with tickets. And there were sweet tickets, like cheaper than all the tickets around them. Like, I was like, I gotta fucking do that.
Yeah, you got to at that, and it's your birthday. I mean, come on, birthday lined up with pay-per-view for UFC.
Yeah,
you can't go wrong with that. That's a great day. So. You're going to have a great time tonight. Hopefully some winners, too, to follow that up. JBC, how you doing here on a Saturday? Ready to pick some winners?
Oh, fuck, man. You guys got me coming on early for this fucking show, Well, I know you've been up for 7 hours, but this is early.
Yeah, we had to pull you off the toilet. I mean, come on. we had to pull you off the toilet to get some winners over here for the people. So, I've been up since, 5:30. I got my run in this morning. I got my
you're fighting in the main event
session. Yeah, I'm fighting in the main event. I didn't work my grappling, but obviously I don't need to work my wrestling or my grappling. So I was practicing my striking. I had the bag downstairs, got 2 bags. So, I did my work for today. I'm ready to go tonight. I'm feeling good, I think anyways. But all right, we got 12 fights here on this card. We're going to get through, give you guys all the winners for tonight. Don't forget, too, if you haven't checked out Rumer Sports, RPS15 is the promo code still going right now. It gets you 15% off your first monthly or weekly payment. If you want to come into the Discord, get all the winners. JBC's dropping bets in there daily, MMA chat all day on Saturday. You get golf. You get NBA finals. Everything we got for one price. You can use that code. And we also have single sport packages. If you just want the MMA winners, you just want the NASCAR or golf package, whatever you want, we got it. Come check it out. RPS15 is the code. You can come in the chat and shit talk me, JVC, Dan, whoever you want. Big T, make fun of them. Doesn't matter. Use the code RPS15 and you can come and hang out with us. So, with that, let's get to the card here. And boys, are you excited before we get into the 12 fights? Are you excited for tonight, or is this just a blah pay-per-view? Dan, what are you feeling on this pay-per-view?
I'm going, so I'm obviously excited. UFC Live is probably the best sporting event, in my opinion.
Yeah, but how do you feel with the pay-per-view? Do you think it's a good pay-per-view? Do you think it's it's okay for a pay-per-view? I mean, we got spoiled with 300, so I think it kind of lowers the bar a little bit for all of them.
I really like the top 3 fights, and the prelims as well. I think the right fighters are favored, but I think these lines are a bit too wide in a lot of spots. So I think things are going to be interesting. I mean, I'm excited for a lot of these matchups. I think it's going to be a good card.
Yeah, JVC, how you feeling on this card today? You feel good about it? Do you like it, or is it just an okay pay-per-view? You got to hit the mute button. Mute button.
I think it was a big pull for them to get Strickland as a co-main event, to be honest. I mean, Strickland's a big name, and I think without Strickland on the card, it would be pretty weak. But having him on there in addition to the main event, I think was very important and makes the card a lot better than, say, the last one.
Yeah, I agree with you, actually, 100%. If they didn't have Strickland on this card, I definitely think it'd be way, way weaker. So I'm glad they got that. And I like the fight, too. Honestly, I like the pairing of him and Costa as a fight. I think it could be a really exciting, fun fight. So, yeah, I like it. And I like some of these other, they might not be the greatest fighters, but I think the Kopylov fight versus Almeida is an interesting fight. I think they got a few interesting fights on this card that should maybe fun. So yeah, we'll see. Let's start at the bottom. We'll work our way up, starting with And I'm going to do this, guys. I'm going to try and go through this whole card because I got made fun of in chat by Dan for mispronouncing so many names. I worked on it today. So I'm going through everyone's name. And JBC, I'm doing the full name. I'm doing the full name. I'm not just doing the last name.
Oh, even Zaleski.
Well, that one I might have to. I'll try. No, I'll try. But that one might be the toughest one. But I'm going to do my best here. Starting off with Mitch Raposo versus Andre Lima here. Raposo 7,600, Lima 8,600 on this card. And you know what? Starting off this fight with a guy in Lima who got bit. It was the first time in a cage that I've seen in a while.
We won big on that one.
We did. But I'll tell you right now, up to the point of him being bit, he was losing that fight.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was heavy on Lima. So I was thankful that bite happened because I don't think I would be very happy with the outcome if that thing went the full 3 rounds because he was losing to Igor. And I definitely think Igor probably wins that fight if he doesn't, for whatever reason, decide the adrenaline or whatever took over and he decides to bite a man in the cage. Like, I just don't get that, but whatever. So now he gets Mitch Raposo, who he has had a couple failed attempts. Dana White's Contender Series where he lost to Jake Hadley, who that's not really a bad loss, honestly. Jake Hadley's a solid fighter. He actually won the first round, too, of that fight before he got caught, taken down, and subbed in the second round. I thought he won the first round and looked decent, at least in that first round. And then in the Ultimate Fighter, he lost to a nonstop wrestler. It's kind of his thing where if you can offensively take down, you can beat someone like Mitch Raposo because he doesn't have the greatest takedown defense. But in this fight, I don't know if Lima is that type of guy that may expose that weakness of Mitch Raposo. So I think that this fight is a little wide with the odds. And I kind of like Raposo as a bet just to take a dog right off the card. He's 7,600. I think he's quick. He's in and out. Lima did miss weight too by 4 or 5 pounds. So that is something that you might want to, talk about. And maybe because Raposo does have good offensive wrestling, but I still think he has a shot here in this fight. And I'm going to take the chance in the betting side with the dog here. JBC, I see you kind of shaking your head a little bit. Are you on Lima, or is this something where maybe the dog is the bet? Maybe you play some Lima in DFS.
I'm full with Lima.
Okay.
It's that last performance, I'm kind of going to toss it out after the bite and everything. But I was heavy on Lima in that fight. I predict big things for him in the future. I like him here. I think he puts him down early.
All right, you got knockout early. Dan, what are you seeing here with this fight, Lima and Raposo?
Yeah, at the beginning of the week, I really wanted to be on Raposo just to have a dog. But as the week kind of went on, it's hard to get there. Like Raposo, like you said, 2 failed attempts getting into the UFC, and in the interim between then and now, he's kind of just been crushing cans, which he's been taking care of business, but it's like super low level competition. I also, Lima came in overweight, and I kind of have he got the 50K bite of the night bonus last time out. So I'm kind of thinking this might be a strategic weight miss. These guys who come in over tend to have.
I definitely think it was strategic.
Yeah, they have quite it's an advantage. So
being fat is an advantage.
Well, I think Raposo is. I think it is in this standpoint because Raposo's not a big dude at all. He's got he's got not a great reach. He's 5'5", so Lima's got the height advantage, and he's a legit 125. He looks it like he's small for it, and when Lima misses weight like that, I think it's because Raposo he's probably gonna try and offensively wrestle. Because he does have offensive wrestling. He did it to Jake Hadley, who's really good off his back, and he stayed safe with someone like Jake Hadley, who is dangerous off his back. So I don't think he's afraid of that. It's more just when people offensively wrestle him, he struggles, and that's kind of my take. Is I don't think Lima's gonna offensively wrestle him And so maybe the power's on Lima's side, but if Raposo can stay away from that power and just be in and out, which is kind of his striking style, it's kind of 1-2 and move, then I think he can stay somewhat safe. So that's why I'm on the dog. You guys got the favorites. For DFS, is this a fight you guys are going to be high on?
The Lima side, certainly. Raposo's kind of expensive for how big of a dog he is, in my opinion, at 7,600. But I mean, that's the case for a lot of the card, though, just because there are so many wide lines that, it becomes tough. You end up having to make strategic choices on who you want to take. I don't really like Raposo.
All right. K-Felix Burner in the chat. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. I mean, it's kind of true. So yeah, I get it. Dan, what's the ownership on these guys coming in right now? Do you see, high ownership on Lima? What's he coming in at?
Yeah, Lima's coming in at 28, just under 30, and Raposo is actually the lowest owned that I have on the entire card at 13.
Okay.
So,
well,
I like JBC. I don't love the Raposo side for DFS because I think he loses pretty handedly. Lima's more skilled. I think. Go ahead.
No. I was going to talk about the weight miss, the strategic weight miss from Lima. You see the line just keep getting wider and wider after he did that. I think that people know that that's what's going on. And JSU spoke on how Raposo has already failed twice trying to get into the UFC. Lima knew that he wouldn't withdraw from the fight if he did that. So he knew he could do it. He knew he could get away with it. And we're going to see the results of it in the cage. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a good point. He knew. And let me just throw this out here too, because I know this for a fact. Jake Hadley, when he lost to Jake Hadley in the Contender Series, Jake Hadley missed weight. Because I remember, because Jake Hadley ran over to Dana White and Sean Shelby after he submitted Raposo and was apologizing, and then apologized after when he was talking on the mic and stuff like that. And then I think Raposo in the Ultimate Fighter, that was up in weight, and he lost to an up in weight nonstop wrestler. So Raposo's really not had the best of luck with the weight misses going against him. And then guys, when he goes up in weight, he obviously lost in the Ultimate Fighter. So all that stuff, Lima knows that. And like you said, he knew he wasn't going to, bail out of this fight because he's trying to get in. And it's probably his last chance to try and get into the UFC with this fight. So that's a good point right there. All right, let's go to the next fight here on this card. And we got bad blood with these two chicks here. I don't know if you guys know the story with Aylin Perez and Jocelyn Edwards here. Perez, 8,700. Edwards, 7,500. If you don't know the story, there was a little beef between the two girls at the PI, I think, before Perez fought her last fight. When, I don't know if you remember, she had a little black eye. Perez and Edwards apparently got into a little scuffle, and they have different sides to the story, but I think Jocelyn's side was kind of another coach kind of said that whatever Jocelyn said was right, where she said she got attacked by Perez and Perez's coach, and it was like 2-on-1, and Perez's coach had her in like a chokehold or something like that. But she gave Perez a black eye. So there's like this whole beef between these two girls. Did you guys hear all this?
I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about this.
You heard about this, Dan?
Yeah,
so
it's fucking great.
What do you think? Like, do you put any stock into? Because these girls aren't finishers. They're decision fighters. Like Jocelyn Edwards, Perez. These are decision fighters right here. Do you put any stock in, like, maybe they're going to stand and try and, like, one of them's going to knock someone out, like, with this? There's emotion here. Like, there's emotion. Dude, if someone jumped me 2-on-1, there's emotion. Like, I don't care what anyone says. If I'm Edwards, I'm like, I want to try and knock this girl's head off.
Yeah, the thing about that is that an advantage or a disadvantage? Like, you don't know how that, like, it all affects different people differently. I just like it from, like, an entertainment standpoint. I'm hoping that they just, like, go and swing on each other. Like,
yeah, me too.
That would be the best. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I actually picked Edwards because I think we might have another strategic weight miss situation here. She also came in over. She already was going to have the size and reach advantage. And, she's got the edge in striking. Perez so far in her fights has not absorbed many strikes. Like the stats would have you think like she is like fantastic defensively, but she just hasn't been like having many attempts thrown at her. I don't love her IQ either. You know, I think she's like very mistake prone. When I first looked at it, I thought like Perez should be able to get her down to the mat and kind of dominate her. But then, you know, you kind of look at the size, you bring the weight miss into account, the striking advantage. I'm going Edwards. And I like her as a contrarian target for sure at her price, 7,500.
Yeah, I definitely like her too. I think the weight cut was strategic for sure. We've seen Aylin Perez. She wants to get this fight to the ground, a lot of control time, but we've also seen her struggle at times to get the fight and she has very little striking. So Jocelyn Edwards definitely has the striking edge. And I'm with you. I like another dog here. JBC, can you make it 3 for 3 on the dogs?
Yes. I feel like I'm on Jocelyn Edwards every time she fights. She typically has the reach advantage. You know, the fight starts on the feet, and Aylin Perez has nothing for her on the feet. I know Jocelyn Edwards' ground game is pretty shitty, but I don't think she's going to obviously Dan spoke on, how there's going to be emotion involved in the fight. She's not going to quit on the ground. She's going to be struggling to get back up. There's, the beef, I think, favors Edwards.
So I definitely think the beef favors Edwards. I agree with you here. And Jason, we're not talking about DFS right now. We were just talking from the betting angle. From the DFS side, like I said, these girls, a lot of decisions with these girls here. If there's upside, you would have to think either Edwards is getting a finish or Perez is getting a bunch of takedowns, I think, right? Like that's the way there's upside in this fight. And we all like the dog. So, I mean, she's a lot cheaper. She doesn't have to do as much. Can we play some Edwards at that price tag on this type of slate at 7,500? I think so. I think so at 7,500.
It's a better play than Raposo.
She's one of the most live. She's one of the more live dogs on the entire card. Possibly the most live dog on the entire card. Yeah, you don't need 100. She could also get 100. It's like the thing about, like, they fight so infrequently that, like,
yeah.
Their past scores are sort of they're more descriptive than predictive, It's not like she can't score 100. She could fucking flatline Perez. She could get a quick win bonus. She could knock her down, do some ground and pound and finish her, first round.
I just have a feeling that we're going to see something weird in this fight. And it could just be maybe she does get a knockdown or two, Dan. Maybe she doesn't finish her, but maybe she does get a knockdown or two. And maybe they do try and stand and bang a little bit. And yeah, Jason, you're all good. I was explaining it. So, we try and hit it from both the betting side and the DFS side. So from the DFS side, I'm assuming you guys are lower on Perez, higher on Edwards, or Dan, are you going to be like at the field on Perez or under?
No, I'm going to be under. She's projecting to be 30% owned. And this is like one of my things is, high owned, like straight wrestlers. Like I'm not into that at all. And I think
that aren't very good at wrestling.
Yeah, low-key sucks. I also think that there's upside. I've talked about this in other feels like other women's fights before, but it's like Perez wants to get the fight to the ground and her wrestling sucks. So like we could see some guard pulls that turn into, takedowns and top control and ground and pound. Yeah, I like it a lot, man.
Well, but JBC, how much does twerking get you when it comes to DFS scoring? Do we get points for twerking? Because if we do, I'm in on Perez, baby.
It doesn't get you shit.
No, Dante Almeida's got some significant strikes from twerking on that guy's face at one time.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that. This is true. So, okay, maybe twerking does get you. So maybe I should put her – I was going to fade Perez. Maybe I should put her back in and just sprinkle in like 10%. Just for the twerking factor.
My thing is, how do you you talk about Perez being 30%, which I mean, that's I see where that's coming from, but how do you do that when she's between Strickland and Lima and Price? Like, I would much rather have Strickland than Lima.
Yeah, I mean, I would way rather have Strickland than both of those guys, or girl and guys. So, yeah, I mean, I'm with you there. I don't like Perez. I think we're all on that side. So higher on Edwards. From the betting side and the DFS side, lower on Perez. Let's go to the next fight here. We got Mickey Gall at 7K here against Basil Hafez, 9,200 on DraftKings for Hafez. JBC, I'll start with you on this one. We got Mickey Gall, famously known for beating CM Punk early in his career. A shout out to CM Punk. I mean, WWE legend CM Punk. So I got to start with you. Do you see a path for someone like Mickey Gall in this fight?
No. He's only on the card because it's in New Jersey. He's going to go out there. The fans will be happy, and then the fans will be sad very quickly. That's the way I see this one going down. I don't really think he's got anything for Hafez. Hafez should be able to win pretty easily.
JBC, I was telling Dan this before we came on, before you jumped on, before we went live. I was like, dude, Basil Hafez dropped his hands with his back against the cage against JDM and was just like letting him swing on him with his hands down, and he didn't go down. Like, you think he's going to be afraid of what Mickey Gall throws at him? I literally think what happens in this fight is simple. If Basil just waits for Mickey to like shoot or come in, and he just catches him, and the fight's over like that fast. Like, I think it's like a knockdown, knockout win here where
Mickey has to shoot. Mickey has to shoot. So
the only way I see it, like the only way I could see him remotely winning is like by submission. I don't think he wins a decision, and I definitely don't think he knocks out Basil. So
tries to do a Street Fighter kick and slips, and Gall ends up on top.
Or we get Chris Weidman part 2, and the refs let him poke Hafez in the eye a few times.
Yeah. Hey, dude, that was it. Hey, that was in New Jersey. That was in New Jersey.
A good point. Dan, I know you hate Gall, so I know you're fading him. What are you doing with Basil for DFS?
Hafez, I'm coming in over. He only projects for 23%, which is kind of weird. He's got one of the best like inside the distance numbers on the whole card. I get that he's expensive. People really don't like this 9K range, and I don't understand it. Like, I see week after week, like a lot of these 9K, especially once you start creeping up to like 94, 95, they tend to go under owned. And yeah, I don't really get the ownership here. I guess he is sandwiched by who? He's sandwiched by, obviously Islam and Almeida, who's going to be really popular. But I kind of like Hafez a little better than Almeida, mostly because of the ownership and because he's got. I mean, I think he wastes Gall, man. I don't think Gall has anything for him. Like you said, Hafez, like, my biggest knock against him is he's like super hittable. But Gall isn't going to be able to take advantage of that. So yeah, I like Hafez a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing Basil Hafez by KO TKO at plus 310 on DraftKings. I'm sorry, on FanDuel right now. I will take that for sure. He's got it's the same for submission too. It's plus 310 for sub and plus 310 for KO. I just like the knockout better, I think, in this spot against Mickey Gall. So I'm going to take that shot there, but I agree with you. Mickey Gall, I feel like, has nothing for him. So
I wanted to touch on what Dan said about the 9K range not being popular week to week. I think that when people are making one lineup, they are hesitant to take a very, very large dog. And so, like, for us, like making 150 lineups, we're willing to take shots on guys like Gall, Dustin, Romanov, guys that have, those big money lines down at the bottom in order to fit in guys like Hafez. Whereas if you're only making one lineup and you're just thumbing it in, you're thinking to yourself, oh, what are the odds they actually win? You're much more inclined to take a Phil Rowe or Zaleski and just fit everything in the middle range, and you won't go up to Hafez. And I think it depresses the ownership in the 9K range.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's definitely 100% what it is. People don't want to take they don't want to take the risks of those guys down there to get a stud. They rather, take the closer lined fighters like Phil Rowe and some of the other guys in the mid 7 to upper 7 range and load up their lineups that way, which puts in people like Aylin Perez,
yes,
who we just talked about, right? That's that's a reason why Aylin Perez is going to be 30% owned on this slate. It's just the lineup construction. Those lineups are going to give you those mid, the Andre Limas, the Aylin Perezes. They're gonna push those guys into your lineups over the Basil Hafez or the Grant Dawsons, all those upper 9K guys that are on this card. So It's a good point. Don't be afraid to take some chances too. If you're building one lineup and just throwing it in like the $3 or the 25, it's a little different if you're doing like the single entry or 3-entry max tournaments. But if you're just building one lineup and throwing it in the 25, JBC, why not take the risk? Because you got to beat so many people anyways, and you only have one shot.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Costa, Price, Romanov, like one of them probably wins, and if they win, they probably win very violently. So, take a shot.
Yeah, 100%. Let's go to the next fight here on the card. We got Phil Rowe, 7,900 on DraftKings versus Jake Matthews, 8,300. And Dan, I feel like this fight, what's the ownership coming in on this fight right now? Because it's one of those type of fights where from the price, you would think that a lot of people are going to fall in this 79 to 8,300 range like JVC was just talking about. So I assume at least one of these guys is going to get good ownership, maybe both of them. What's the ownership look like?
I got them dead even at 23 apiece.
Okay.
Yeah. So, pretty moderate. There's like quite a few fighters that are like 20 and below. So that's like kind of, I mean, the ownership is like fairly spread out. Even like Strickland and Makhachev are both projecting under 50% owned. So it's pretty flat. Wild. Yeah, it's pretty flat.
I actually don't see how one of them doesn't get over 50.
Yeah, I mean, they probably will. Like, this is just, raw. Like,
yeah, no, I know. I know. Who you got in this fight here?
Oh, I've got Matthews. Yeah, this is another case where like I wanted to like the underdog. We're always like searching for viable dogs, and he definitely is a viable dog. But I think as far as a pick for me goes, I'm gonna go Matthews.
Yeah, got Philip Rowe, guy with lower volume. He can finish you still. He can finish you, but the output's not going to be there, I feel like, so he needs to finish. And even when he's getting the finishes, JBC, he's not always covering these tags where you feel like you need them. So I like Matthews anyway, so I'm going Matthews. Where are you at on this fight?
I really don't have a strong opinion on this one. Dan spoke about how the ownership is going to be kind of chopped down the middle, and I'm probably going to end up right around in that range, 20 to 25% on both. I think both guys have a decent shot, to nut. I think Matthews is plus 250 to finish. I think Rowe's 300. Those are fair numbers. I could see the fight going either way, so I'm going to divide my ownership between the two. And if one of them nuts, I don't want to be under on them. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like the Magny fight just still sticks in my head, which I shouldn't even blame Phil Rowe for. I just feel like Phil Rowe should have beat Neil Magny, and he just played the clinch game with him after like striking a little bit, and then he just would like clinch with him as Neil walked across the cage. And I'm like, Neil does this to everyone, though. He makes everyone fight his style. So why am I holding it against Phil Rowe? But I'm still holding it against Phil Rowe because I felt like he should have knocked out Neil Magny in that fight. So I don't know why, but that's like making me pause on clicking Phil Rowe here. And I do think Jake Matthews is pretty talented. I don't think he's like amazing anywhere, but I think he's like all around pretty solid everywhere. Like if the fight went to the ground or it stayed on the feet, I think he's solid enough. I think he could just out volume Philip Rowe to a decision win here. So
Matthews, I was expecting more out of him in his career. I feel like he's plateaued. Like he was on an upward ascent and then kind of just didn't get any better.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, he's kind of just lost to the guys he should be losing, like right. the upper tier guys, and then like the people he's beating, he like should beat pretty much.
He hit a wall.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think Phil Rowe is like right in the middle where like right. I wouldn't be shocked if Phil Rowe beat him, but if Jake Matthews ran through Phil Rowe, I actually wouldn't be shocked either because right. I think he is talented. So, yeah, this is a close fight. I mean, Dan, are you going to be at the field on this fight? Or are you going to be lower on one of these guys?
I'll probably be at the field because, at the end of the day, it is one of the more even fights that we have on the card. And either guy wins, they're cheap enough where they're going to be really live for the optimal. So you definitely don't want to fade either side of this fight. I don't think. I'm looking at it like right now, and I just favor Matthews like in so many spots. He's better wrestling, better on the ground. Like I think if Matthews can get it to the ground, Rowe is pretty helpless down there.
If he wants to get it to the ground, though.
Right. And
he should want to. He should want to.
They're both pretty
but even
volume.
Flowers fight, like he subbed him, but he only got the fight to the ground because Darius Flowers took a bad shot at him and he just like caught him and reversed the position pretty much and then ended up subbing him. That is the easiest path, but he's not like necessarily shooting, or he hasn't been necessarily like shooting on guys as much as he probably should be, or in this fight should be.
True. I will just say that like in his more recent fights, he has come out more aggressive. So I can see him like coming out, getting in, Rowe's face, taking him down. I mean, that is like the path of least resistance against Rowe. I mean, Matthews is even like, he's been in the UFC for so long. He's faced a much higher level of competition. Like Rowe really struggles with steps up in competition. Like we've seen it. We've seen it time and again. So I like Matthews quite a bit. I like Matthews by sub quite a bit. It's like plus 625.
I like that. We got Sean V in the chat. Rowe has never won a decision. I don't think if Rowe wins, it's by decision. I think if he wins, he catches Matthews coming in and puts him down. I think if you like Rowe, I would bet him by knockout, honestly. I think Jake Matthews wins a decision just based off of volume. He's the one that would be getting takedowns if anybody. And he's, I think, the one who's going to be the one pressuring and putting out more volume in a decision win. That's just what I think. So I'd be going Matthews by decision or sub.
About Rowe's like knockouts, in 2 of the 3 people he's knocked out, in 2 of those 3 fights, he came in overweight. So just like something to consider. Coming in overweight, fighting against lower competition, those are the guys he's knocking out. Not really guys like Jake Matthews, who, for all his faults or, even if he's mid, he's like pretty durable. He doesn't really get knocked out.
Yeah, I mean, like, has he been knocked out like once in the UFC or something like that? It's not many. So
not for a while. So
yeah, I like Matt. The more we talk about it, the more I kind of like Matthews. So I'm in on the Matthews train. I see some people in chat like Rowe. We'll see who gets there.
Sorry, but like just one more thing about Matthews is like the money, like the money line. The money is pretty much like even on. It's like 50-50 who like where the money's at, and Matthews is still like minus 170. He's still like a pretty good favorite. So that should tell you something.
Interesting. JVC, are you going to bet this fight, or is this a fight you're going to like stay away from?
I don't have a bet on this fight.
You don't have a bet on this fight. All right. Well, there you go. JVC thinks it's definitely a very close fight. Let's go to the next fight here. We got a grappling/wrestling match. I think we'll see here. We got Joe Solecki, 6,900 on DraftKings versus Grant No Chin Dawson at 9,300 on DraftKings. Grant Dawson, we remember him as the one who got absolutely destroyed by Bobby Green off of one tap to the chin, whatever you want to call it. And he went down, crumbled, and that was it. Now he's back. 9,300 on DraftKings facing a grappler. Joe Solecki is a grappler. So, JBC, I would assume that if Grant Dawson could stay away from the one punch and get this fight to the ground and just kind of like out wrestle and stay away from the grappling upside of Joe Solecki, he probably wins a boring wrestling decision. Is that how you see it going?
Yeah. I wouldn't put too much stock in the one fight against Bobby Green. I mean, Grant Dawson was definitely on the ascent before that happened, and he was like a massive favorite against Bobby in that fight before he lost. And I think that's reflected in the fact that this line opened at minus 280, and now it is minus 500, minus 550, minus 600. Joe Solecki is a similar fighter to him, and he's a lot worse at it. So I really do not see a path for Steli to win basically at all. I think Dawson is just going to have his way with him no matter what he wants to do. If he wants to be on the feet, which I doubt, he'll win there. If he wants to be on the ground, he'll win there. He's gonna win everywhere. So I really, really like Dawson for DFS. I'll probably fade Steli completely. I like Dawson by finish. I like all the Dawson props. I like everything. Grant Dawson's one of my favorite ones on the card.
Yeah, the one thing I just don't think he wants to be on the feet with anyone. I mean, even Mark Madsen dropped him. Like, we forget about this. Like, Grant Dawson wasn't just dropped by Bobby. He's been dropped by other people. His wrestling is just so dominant. He's going to want to wrestle everyone. Like, he would have wrestled Bobby Green if he didn't get caught, with that shot. Like, I agree with you that we're probably overblowing him getting caught once, I guess, in my mind, but I still just can't get it out.
Well, people did the same thing with Curtis Blades. He gets caught by Derek, and then like everybody's like, "Oh, Curtis Blades sucks," which not the case. Grant Dawson, I feel similarly.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And that's what the line's saying too, right? You made a good point. The line is pretty much saying that that's how everyone should kind of feel. Dan, is this an easy Grant Dawson, decision win for you?
Yeah, I actually have Grant Dawson by decision, only because he doesn't really show that much urgency to finish fights. Like, he just doesn't seem all that interested. He'd rather just wrestle you for 3 rounds. And I also think, Steli, obviously, like JBC said, is worse at basically everything. But, wrestling is still like his main thing. And a lot of the times, like, these guys will sort of like neutralize each other. And not saying that Dawson can't eventually find the finish, but like Steli has a slightly better chance of not being finished than maybe somebody who doesn't have like any kind of wrestling background. Yeah, I mean, Dawson is also, he's like the best money, like in terms of how much the line has moved since salaries have dropped. He is the best value, and he's only coming in at 20% owned, which, similar to Hafez, is like a bit baffling to me, but we already explained the reasons why that happens. I'm definitely coming in over on Dawson, and I have like little interest in Steli, but I'm not going to completely fade him.
Yeah, Dawson for DFS definitely seems like a really solid play just with the wrestling upside. He gets a bunch of takedowns, control time, 3 rounds of it, and you're probably scoring well. I will say that I am it is a fun bet, but I am sprinkling plus 2,300 on Joe Steli by knockout. I think is just too ridiculous for someone he's facing, even though Joe Steli has not great hands. He still has one punch. Like, Grant Dawson doesn't have that great of a chin. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit just as a fun bet.
To back up your point, Dan spoke about, grapplers neutralizing each other. And a lot of times what happens there is if 2 grapplers neutralize each other, it turns into a firefight. If you remember the first Colby and Usman fight, we're all thinking it's going to be grappling. And then they get in there and just fucking start swinging at each other. And if Grant Dawson gets drawn into that, sure, 23-1.
Yeah, no, it's just a fun bet. You know what I mean? That's a fun bet. You sprinkle a little bit on it, and you root for, like you said, JBC, you root for the opposite of what you think the fight's going to be, right. But they could neutralize each other, and that's how that could happen, I guess. So yeah, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on it, but Grant Dawson is the DFS play for sure. He's got the ultimate upside with the scoring, the takedown. So how do you rate him in Basil, and even just throw like Islam in there, like those 3 guys, because they all have upside for like takedowns, control time, all that stuff. How do you rank those guys?
Well, a lot of how I rank them, I think, has to do with the opponent. Mickey Gall and Steli, I'm not real confident in their ability to do a whole lot. And it's like Poirier, that he's been training nothing but wrestling for like months and months and months and months and months. And it's like, I know Islam is the GOAT and he's like unstoppable, but Poirier has been doing nothing but that for so long. I think he may be able to stay off of his back for like a round or 2, which would make Islam's score go down. So I kind of like Dawson the most, and then Hafez, and then Islam.
Dan, how would you rank those three?
I've got Hafez, Islam, and Dawson.
Okay. Hafez, Islam, Dawson. I'd go Islam, Hafez, Dawson, but I think it's close. We'll get to the Islam fight in a second here. Let's go to the next fight on the card. We've got Alexander Romanov at 7,100 on DraftKings versus Jailton Almeida, 9,100. Another 9K guy, and I forgot to even group him in it, that has that crazy takedown upside where I know he lost the Curtis Blades, but he had 9 takedowns before he ended up losing. Like, this dude had 55 fantasy points in a second round loss. That is insane. In a second round loss, the volume that this guy can just keep putting you down to the mat. I will say the weight difference between these two is massive. I mean, Romanov he weighed in at 265. He is all of it, probably heavier. And Jailton Almeida weighed in at 240, I think.
Blades is 265 too, though.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point. And he's just like faster than everyone too, right? He out techniques them, trips them. So it's not like he's like just overpowering everyone with all this stuff. It's technical, right, JBC? So I guess that doesn't matter as much. But man, when you just look at Romanov and him, you're just looking at like, man, Romanov's a massive human being. But how do you see this fight going, JBC? Do you think Romanov has a outside chance here to win this fight?
So I see this fight very similarly to, the Almeida fight with Blades, which I was completely wrong about, even though I won the bet on Blades. Almeida ragdolled him the entire first round. And so that makes me think he could do it to Romanov too. And Romanov does not have near the knockout power that Blades has. So I think if a similar thing happens, there's no chance that Romanov's going to be able to knock him out like Blades did. Romanov obviously is a very, 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 very high-level grappler, European champion. But after what I saw Almeida do to Curtis Blades, like I don't see how he just doesn't do it again.
That's how I'm feeling. Like we should have grouped him in with that last conversation with the 9K guys, because I got him really high, and I really like him here at 9,100. I think he's got a ton of upside with the takedowns and control time. And 9,100, I'm going to be in on Mr. Almeida. Dan, see you kind of shaking your head a little bit. Are you all the way in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in on Almeida. He's projecting to be nearly like 40%. I'm not going to get quite there, but I'm going to be like at least 35, I think. I mean, Romanov, man, he's probably the better striker, but there's like really no power there. And he just has like, the guy just quits, man. And I think Almeida is just going like, he's not fucking Curtis Blades. So if Almeida goes out there and does to Romanov what he was doing at the beginning of that Blades fight, like it's probably not getting to the second round,
And you make a good point, Dan. And when I watched that Blagoy fight, the Ivanov fight, which was his last fight, Romanov, if you watch that fight, they pretty much like stood, like stared, couple punches. They played that game. And then like Romanov would wait until the very like last minute or 30 seconds in the second and third round, and he would just easily take him down. And when I was watching it, I was like, that's weird. Like, why doesn't he just, he's taking him down so easily. Like, why doesn't he do that like right off the bat? But it hit me. I'm like, he doesn't want to wrestle and grapple early because he'll get tired. And he doesn't want to do that. So what's going to happen when someone like Jailton Almeida comes in and says, I'm going to fucking wrestle and grapple the fuck out of you from the start of this fight, by the point of round one ending, or like, 1.5 rounds in, if that's happening to Romanov, he is going to be so fucking tired from just mat return. It's going to be exhausting, and he's going to have even less power to put him out. So I really, really like Jailton Almeida in this fight. I think he's going to come in. He's going to do what he did to Curtis Blades. And if that happens, I just don't think Romanov has it in him to put him out.
It's like the Selecki fight where Romanov is worse at a little worse at everything, and including cardio. So it's just like, it's a horrible matchup for Romanov. Like, I wouldn't have taken this fight if I was him.
Yeah. I think he's just going to gas out and then get caught in something.
It's not a good matchup for him.
Yeah.
Seems like a really clear bounce back spot for Almeida.
Yeah. And I like Romanov a lot, like in general, but like as you said, the intangibles have just been very weak as we've seen.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. And I see Almeida as like, he's upper tier, obviously. And I think those are the guys where Romanov's good. He's just probably losing to most of the upper tier fighters in this weight class. And I put Almeida in that upper tier, even though he lost to Curtis Blades. I still think he's very good.
The Blades fight was a fraud. It was a fluke.
Well, but a lot of people are like, that's a fraud check, fraud. And I'm like, I don't know.
He got gassed out and it was a dump. He got caught in a bad position and didn't get out of it.
He got elbowed in the side of the head, like how many times? Like he just got caught. Yeah, it happens. But let's go to another Almeida. I love this fight here. I can't wait to talk about it. We got Cesar Almeida, 8K on DraftKings, versus Roman Kopylov, 8,200 for Mr. Kopylov. And I am a huge Kopylov fan. I've always loved him. Where he loses in fights, as we've watched, is to people who wrestle and grapple the fuck out of him. Anyone who stands with this dude, he has beaten. Now he gets a guy in Cesar Almeida who I loved last time out against Budka, or however you say his name, because he was a shitty wrestler / grappler. And even though he was a dog, I figured Cesar could, withstand, even if the first round he was getting taken down, the second and third round, he could stay on his feet. And, once that happens, the line should literally flip because Cesar's 10 times the striker of Budka. That's how bad Budka was on his feet. Now he gets a dude who's really, really good kickboxer as well and is super dangerous on his feet. I think this is a bad spot. You got a guy in Cesar Almeida who he's not going to take Kopylov down. And so Kopylov gets to stand with someone who wants to do the same thing to him. And I think Kopylov's speed is going to show against someone like Cesar Almeida. And I think he finds a finish, round 2 or 3. I think Kopylov finds a finish here and puts him out. But I'm really on the Roman Kopylov side. I like him as a bet. I love him for DFS. I think this is a good fight for him. JVC, where are you at on this fight?
Total opposite.
Total opposite.
I do not see how anybody can beat Cesar Almeida on the feet in UFC. Ooh. I don't think that anybody's got the striking that he has. Obviously, he can't wrestle for shit coming from his kickboxing background, but I think that he's the best striker in the weight class. So they put him against another striker because they're going to stand there and strike, and I think Kopylov's getting put down.
All right. Well, that's where we disagree. But let's see if Dan has a similar take to you. Dan, who do you like? Break the tie. Kopylov, Almeida.
I'm on Almeida as well. This is like a running theme of the week where like I wanted to be on somebody like to start because I'm also a fan of Kopylov. But like JBC said, Almeida is one of the best strikers probably in the division. Neither of these guys offer up much wrestling or grappling, so not really a concern there. Though I would give the edge to Kopylov there just because his last fight against Fluffy, like he showed some pretty good takedown defense. Fluffy's he's relentless. So he's
been working on that, I'm sure, because he knows that everyone who gets in there with him, maybe outside of someone like Cesar Almeida, is going to try and take him down, right?
Yeah, I don't think it really factors into this fight. Yeah, and also just like the line movement it's completely flipped. Like I believe, Kopylov was nearly like a 2-1 favorite when the line dropped, and now it's like an even money fight. So I was a little confused by that. It made me kind of dig into the matchup a little deeper because I was like, okay, I'm on Kopylov, but something's not right here. So I'm on Almeida.
All right. Almeida for you and JBC. I'm on the Kopylov side. What are you guys doing for DFS? Is this a fight you're just like locked and loaded? Or are you going to be like jamming both these guys or just Almeida since you're on the Almeida side? How are you approaching it? Because they both have finishing upside.
I definitely am playing both of them. Like, I think this is a great fight to target, in order to fit a lot of other stuff in your lineups. If whichever one of them wins, I think we're going to get a finish one way or the other. So I would definitely lean into this fight more. Like we spoke on Matthews and Rowe and how I was going to go mid-20s on both of them. I think push that up into the mid-30s, possibly 40 on Almeida, and then, play both sides at about 75-80% of your teams.
I like that. Dan, are you kind of in the same ballpark?
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think it's a good
They're going to
fight.
come out there and swing.
Yeah, no. That's the one thing about I don't know if it's going to be like first round because I feel like both those guys are a little more measured. I think they're both going to like be feeling each other out for like a round. I think second round someone's going out. Is probably what I'm at because I think they like kind of test each other and both probably respect each other's power.
I'm excited for this fight. I'm really excited for this fight.
It's definitely, I think it's one of the better fights overall outside of like the top two fights. I think it's like one of the better fights overall on the card. But let's go to the main card here. We've got Zaleski dos Santos. I'm not doing the first name. Sorry, JBC. I bowed out of that one. Dos Santos, 7,700 on DraftKings. Randy Brown, 8,500 on DraftKings here for Mr. Randy Brown. Brown, long, super tall, going to use his reach and length, kind of keep at distance. And Dos Santos, just an absolute dog. He's a veteran. He got that split draw or whatever it was off of Facardino because he won the third round. I think they gave him a 10-8, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I?
That's correct.
That's correct, right? And in that fight, he got dropped like early by Facardino too, and he just like found a way to survive early and then get a draw out of it too. So it's pretty impressive. It showed his toughness. I kind of like him as a DFS play on the side. I think he's a live dog. I think he could present some problems to Randy Brown with, some of his unique style and pressure, which Brown's not going to like. And yeah, I'm going to take the dog here. I'm going to go to Santos in a decision win, probably a split decision too. I think this is like a very close fight. JBC, where are you at with this fight?
I agree that I think it's going to go to decision. I think Randy Brown's going to do his normal shit where he, uses his length to stay at distance and just jab him to death. And I think it's going to be pretty boring. And I think Randy Brown wins every 30-27, but like every round is like really close and like you could give it to Zaleski, but I think this is going to be a boring one.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be one of those fights where at the end it tilts me because every round's somewhat close, and then Randy Brown gets the 30-27, like you said, and he loses.
It's going to be like a boxing match,
Yeah. Yep. Dan, how do you see this fight going, and are you under on this fight for DFS?
Yeah, I'm not super excited to play this fight. I'm also on the Zaleski side. I think Zaleski is pretty live to actually get a sub here too, because Randy Brown has like shown to be alive, like pretty suspect on the mat defensively. But yeah, most likely I pick Zaleski by decision. It's likely going to play out like JBC said, most Randy Brown fights, kind of just like point fighting from the outside. Although, he did show power in the Salikov fight. Like, again, it's old-ass Muslim Salikov, but still, Dos Santos is also pretty long in the tooth. He has shown that he's a bit susceptible as well to being hurt. His opponents just like haven't capitalized and finished him. But I think it's a possibility that this does end inside the distance, though not the most likely path. So I'll be like pretty moderately exposed to this one.
Yeah, it sounds like honestly, Dan, you're a little higher on this fight than JBC in a way.
I think there are paths to a finish for sure. Maybe a little bit more than you guys of the field are giving it credit for. Now that I talk about it.
Yeah, that's fair. I was going to say, you bring up the Salikov fight. Talk about the Wellington Turman fight now. Talk about that fight, because that fight was dare I say questionable? I don't know.
Yeah, he really should have gotten him out of there. So that's like a major red flag. You're absolutely right. Yeah, it's really it has a lot to do with like Zaleski has been getting hurt, and it's these older guys who are like, yeah, he's a dog. It's like, yeah, because he's been getting the shit beat out of him and getting
hurt, getting hurt, but staying alive, Dan. That is something. I mean, come on.
It's the just bleed guy, Dan. JSU's
that's right. I am the just bleed guy. Yeah, Dan's just like he sucks. He's getting hurt. He's getting hit every time. JSU. I'm like, I know. Now he fights a guy with a massive height and reach advantage. Great. It should be good. So, all right, let's go to the next fight here on this card. Alex Morono, 8,900 on DraftKings for Alex Morono. Really hasn't shown the upside in a while to have that type of price tag, in my opinion. But he gets a guy in Nico Price, who we know famously got absolutely destroyed by Mr. Lawler, Robbie Lawler. And finished. But that was his last fight. He's 7,300 now. He's gotten chinned. I think the last two fights, Phil Rowe was another one he lost to inside the distance. What are we doing here with this fight? Because you got a guy in Morono who wants to point fight you to death. He's not trying to like go in for finishes, at least recently. He's trying to win rounds. He's trying to outpoint fight you. And, but you got a guy, Nico Price, who's been chinned now a couple times. How are we going about this, Stan? Is it something where we could take some shots on Alex Morono? Is he going to come in low owned?
He's going to come in like sub 20. I have 19 for him right now. I mean, God, the options around him, like he's sandwiched between Holland and Strickland, who obviously I like both of them much better. The most appealing part about Morono is his ownership and his opponent, Price, who, his chin seems to be like pretty gone. The problem with Morono is he's a bit of a slow starter and he's like pretty patient. So I could see this ending inside the distance, but it's probably going to be like the second or third round. He's another one of those guys who, like you said, he doesn't show all that much urgency to really finish the fight, although he has stated that like he wants to get more finishes. So take that for what you will.
I'm a fighter. I want to win.
You want?
Oh yeah, but I mean, truly,
what you want, Dad. But at a certain point, it's your fault that you're not going for more finishes. He could be going for more finishes.
Yes, I mean some guys. But you'd admit that like there are some that seem less interested than others to finish a fight. That's how Morono seems. His words and actions like in the cage haven't necessarily lined up. But if he is truly interested in getting more finishes, like more and being in more exciting fights, this is like a golden opportunity.
Maybe use more grappling just overall, Alex Morono, if you're trying to get more finishes. I don't know. You got a nasty grappling game that you never use. So maybe that would help with the old finishes, JBC. I don't know. What are you seeing here with Morono and Price?
Nico's going to force it on him. Dan talked about how Morono's patient, but Nico's going to force it on him. And no, we haven't mentioned yet, Nico already knocked him the fuck out. That already happened. So it's like he could do it again. And I like him down there at 7,300. I mean, obviously there's massive upside. You could fucking chin him and score a massive score. I love Nico Price. I love all his fights. I know he's getting old. He's getting knocked out, but I have a hard time staying away from him against somebody like Alex Morono, who isn't going to force the issue. Because, can Morono knock him out with a counter shot? Sure. But Nico might just go in there and fucking win. That's what he does. So I like Nico here.
I actually, the more you talk about it, the more I like the fight overall for DFS. I might get some.
He's going to force a big score out of Morono.
Because he's going to do what we've seen from all these other guys who like to kind of sit back, or decision fighters because they want to point fight you. When you got a guy who's going to come in and just get in your face and force action, that's going to result in finishes one way or the other, right, JBC? So it could be a finish for Nico. It could be a finish for Morono, but I like it. I like what you said. I'm going to be a little higher on this fight overall. And I don't mind taking shots on the dog Price, but I think Morono could find a sub here. Like if he's trying to get more finishes, I don't know if the 100% the power is there, but I think he could find his way, snatch up a sub. Where's my boy Big T? Snatch up a guillotine, a gilly for the people here. Maybe Alex Morono snatches up a guillotine for my guy Big T. So I had over under 5.5 in chat. I think I said it twice right there, so 2 or 3 times. So I got at least 2 more, and I'm still under the 5.5. So suck it, chat. Dan, are you going to be high on this fight? DFS?
Well, I mean, we spoke about Nico like forcing the action on Morono. I still like the Morono side better. So I think I'm probably actually going to end up over on Morono. I'll probably be over on Nico as well because he's only coming in money. And down there is like it gets pretty ugly down there, honestly. Like none of these dogs are super.
Nico is live, and a lot of those fuckers are not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like outside of Costa, who I think Costa's live too. We throw him in there, but who else?
Yeah,
like down there, seriously.
Unless you count Poirier as being live, which I don't really. But
I mean, but you can, and it's like okay, so there's 2 guys. Like I don't really see much else.
Oleksiejczuk, I guess, but also Holland. I don't. We'll talk about that later, but.
Well, we're going to talk about it right now because we got Oleksiejczuk at 7,200 here on DraftKings versus Kevin Holland at 9K. And I feel like Dana in UFC was like, okay, Kevin Holland, you've helped us out a bit. We're going to give you a bounce back fight here. You've lost 2 in a row. He really just got frustrated against Michael Page because he couldn't hit him. He literally couldn't. He couldn't find the target.
Fighting karate guys got to be annoying as fuck.
Oh, yeah, 100%. But I'm just saying, though, it's got to be so frustrating when you're, like, in the cage and you, like, are not used to this at all and you just can't find your target. I mean, he's a long guy. He's tall, like, but he's just fighting a longer, like, and harder to hit type guy in Page, and he just got frustrated and ended up losing that fight. He lost to Dalla Maddalena. The fight before. So I feel like this is a bounce back fight here against Michal, who obviously at his last fight was against Vieira, who we all know is a beast. If you didn't know after he lost to him, then you saw it in the next fight where he's flipping over dudes and turning his back and finishing them. So I see this going the Kevin Holland way. I think in the 9K range, though, he's probably the guy I'm going to just be the lowest on. I don't think he's going to have the ceiling to outbeat some of these wrestlers that also have, upside to finish. So I feel like Kevin Holland's going to struggle to beat the scoring of them for DFS. So I like Kevin Holland as a bet. I think he finishes Michal too, just from the way he fights and Michal fights. So I like him to finish, but I don't like him for DFS. JBC, what are you on?
I agree with pretty much all of your points. I think Holland's going to win, and I think it's going to be boring. And I think that he'll stay at distance. And, it's similar to what I spoke on about Randy Brown. Just poke, 30-27, Holland.
All right. So you like him by decision. You like a decision win here. Dan, what do you got here with Kevin Holland and Oleksiejczuk?
Well, I mean, I think you have a similar dynamic at play as in the Morono Price fight where, Holland would like to just kind of point from the outside, but, Oleksiejczuk is, he wants to he's aggressive. He gets up in your face. He wants to be explosive. He hasn't been out of the second round in, I believe, his last 5 fights. So he's either finishing you or getting finished, at some point. And I think at 9K, a round 2 finish could actually play. So I like Holland quite a bit. He's going to be 24% owned, which is a bit low for that range. I mean, yeah, you've got Almeida nearly double his ownership right above him. And I just don't think that's pretty inefficient.
Yeah, because he has the wrestling upside. Kevin, you're not going to see the takedown upside of
right. You'd have to get a quick knockout to match up.
Yeah. Holland, he's got you know, he's got some of the best like round one finish odds on the entire card. Like I can absolutely see, you know, Oleksiejczuk trying to blitz him early and Holland just knocks him out.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good point. It is similar to the fight we just talked about. So that is probably your best point overall.
I know I like Oleksiejczuk as a dog too, because, you know, I mean, these fights where you have a guy with like a killer be kill style, I want either guy. Someone's getting killed.
Yeah, you want hospital either way.
Kopylov.
Yeah, Kopylov. Yeah, you want hospital either way. So I agree with you, though. I think Kevin Holland does finish the fight. So that's something I definitely agree with you on, whether it happens in round one or round two. But maybe it is something where, from an ownership standpoint, you can get over on not just the Morono fight, but maybe this fight too. You know, you said he's going to come in like under 20%, Dan?
Holland is going to be 24. Oleksiejczuk is going to be around 20. So like they're really close in ownership in a fight where, you know, I think Holland has the edge basically everywhere. So I'm happy to go heavier on Holland for sure.
I agree. And I also agree that he's a completely different fighter. So like stylistically, they're like opposites because Mikhal's going to go right in your face and Kevin Holland's going to kind of skate around and eventually catch you. It's just, does he catch him quicker because of the pressure that Mikhal is going to put on him? So yeah, it's a good point. We're all on the Kevin Holland side. I feel like for sure, but for DFS, maybe it's a better fight than I gave it credit for. Dan made some good points. Might have to adjust some stuff after we get off here, but let's go to the two main events here on this card. I can't wait for these fights. Especially the Strickland fight, though. I'm excited for the Strickland Costa fight. You got Sean Strickland, 8,800 on DraftKings, and Paulo Costa at 7,400. I do feel like this fight is going to be very highly owned. Dan, what's the ownership coming in on Costa and Strickland?
So I got 43 for Strickland and 31 for Costa.
Yeah, I feel like Costa's got to be one of the higher owned dogs on the entire card.
Yeah.
At that price, so. That makes sense to me. I think this fight, Sean Strickland is just, I think this fight's going to stand for most of it. And I think Sean Strickland at some point is just going to have too much for Paulo Costa. You know, Costa, it does have power. I wouldn't say it's like crazy. I think his kicks are really good. He's got really good kicks, but I think Sean Strickland, just his style, I think it's made to withstand against someone like Costa, and then in the later rounds kind of put it on Costa because everything he does is with a lot of energy. Costa, it's like a lot of big movements and stuff like that, which can naturally tire you out, even when he's tired, he's still like in the fight. So he doesn't like, I'm not saying he gasses hard, but like he's tired because of all the big actions that he's doing with the kicks and you know, putting a bunch of power on his shots and stuff like that. So I think Sean Strickland wins a decision here in this fight, but I think it's a fun fight. I think we see some bleeding, as Sean Strickland was talking about in the presser. JBC, who you got winning this fight?
I agree with you. Strickland decision. He's got better cardio. He's got better, you know, I think his striking is better. He just has less power. Strickland's a hard guy to put out, and I think Costa's only path to victory is to put him out. So he's going to have to land a big shot. And, you know, Strickland does like to get in there and kind of like try and alpha it sometimes and just demand to fucking take punches and shit. And if he does that, if he does the Max Holloway shit, Costa could knock him out that way. But other than that, other than Strickland being stupid, I don't see him losing.
Yeah, I agree. There's always that, you know, if he tries to, you know, point to the middle of the.
If he points to the middle, Costa's going to kill him.
Hopefully, I don't think he's going to do that, but you never know. You know how many brain cells that man's lost in the cage. We'll never know, but I can tell you it's a lot. Dan, what do you got here with Strickland and Costa?
I agree with you guys. Obviously, Costa's path is like the power shot. You know, he's got the power advantage, but you know, Strickland has really good striking defense, and Strickland also, you know, he's got elite cardio, which Costa, like you said, like he'll stay in the fight, but it's very obvious that he fades. Like
he's too muscular.
Yeah, it's like obviously the muscles like play a factor in that, but I've Strickland by decision, but I think he's actually pretty live to just like melt him in a similar way that he melted Magomedov.
Yeah, I think it would be later though. I don't think it would be like round. I don't think Costa round 2 is going out.
Right. It'll be like definitely later rounds, like 3 and beyond. But I think that is like a distinct possibility.
Yeah, I could see it happening. For DFS guys, are you just loading up on Strickland because you're lower on Costa? Are you guys going to be like at the field on both these guys? How are you approaching the DFS side, JVC?
I'm going to load up on both of them.
Same.
Load up on both. Dan, are you just going to jam this fight, Dan? You like to jam the main event, so.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Yeah. Like I'm expecting to be 90 plus on both of the 5-rounders. Yeah.
All right.
I might even be lower on Islam Poirier because, we'll talk about it.
Yes. I agree with that.
That could easily happen just from a roster construction standpoint. I could see you being higher on this fight and lower on the next fight. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about the last fight on the card. Islam Makhachev and Dustin Poirier. Poirier 6,700 on DraftKings. Makhachev 9,500 on DraftKings here. I see this fight very simple in my head, how it goes. And I went back and watched the last few Islam fights. And I throw the one against Volk when Volk came in off the couch because the UFC needed him and he got destroyed in a round and it was over and stuff. I throw that one out. But when you watch like the Charles Oliveira in the Volk fight where they went all 5 rounds and stuff, you look at like Islam is very, very sharp. He's tactical. He, very smart. It's not like in those fights, he was just shooting, like just shooting takedowns, shoot. In the Charles Oliveira fight, he was very, very strategic on how he got Charles to the ground. He wasn't shooting like singles or anything or grabbing single legs because he was worried about Charles snatching up a submission. So he was grabbing him, getting him up against the cage, and then working him from there, staying away from like those submissions. When you watch the Volk fight, he was doing similar things where he knew Volk had a lower center of gravity because he's shorter. He has no neck, by the way, on top of it. But so and if you look at Volk's legs, they were massive if compared to Makhachev's legs. So he was just a harder guy to like just constantly shoot against. Whenever he would get Volk to the ground, it was because of Volk being over aggressive, and then he'd catch him coming in because like Volk maybe thought he hurt him, and then he'd like start to overswing, and then Makhachev would grab a leg and get him to the ground. Like I think against Poirier though, he's not going to be afraid at all. It's going to be like what Benoit Saint Denis did to Poirier for that first round, but it's just going to be until the fight's over. He's not going to slow down. He's going to grab a single. He's not going to worry about Dustin's guillotine. That's 4, by the way. And he's going to, from there, get the fight to the ground. And once he takes the back, it's not going to be like, Volk or Charles, where they can find a way back to their feet maybe once or twice. I think once he takes the back, it's over with Dustin. So I got Islam. I think round 1 or 2 sub, he finishes them. And I don't think he stands in box. I think Dustin's been trying to goad him into it this whole time, talking about, why don't you stand in box with me like your coaches or something like that, what he was saying at the presser. And he said it multiple times. He's praying that Islam tries to throw with him. I don't see that happening. I think this is cut and dry. But I also thought the Benoit Saint Denis was cut and dry, and he gassed out after a round in a minute. So yeah, we'll see. JVC, what do you got here? Makhachev Poirier.
You spoke about Benoit Saint Denis, and now we're talking about there's the rumors about Islam having a staph infection, just like fucking Benoit.
Oh yeah, I did hear about that. That is funny.
And I think
I've got. Oh man, please don't tell me that's the actual case. I'm still hurting from the Benoit Saint Denis fight.
Poirier's only shot is if he has a staph infection. As Connor likes to say, Islam is juiced up. Islam's on every drug you could possibly fucking be on. I don't see how he won't gas. He won't lose. He's going to run him over.
Yep. It's unfortunate. I like Dustin, but it's just this is the fighters that he loses. He loses to those nonstop wrestling.
Dustin doesn't cheat.
Yeah. Yeah. But he's gonna get killed for that here against Makhachev. Dan, I assume that you're high on Islam here to win.
Yeah, Islam to win. Yeah, like you guys said, it's like maybe if Islam has a staph infection, like then we got a shot. It really wasn't looking good for Dustin at the beginning of that Benoit Saint Denis fight, like at all. Like I needed and I got Poirier, but like I was clenched that whole time. I was like, this.
Oh yeah, you won big on that one. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So I mean, I love Dustin for that, but unfortunately, like I just don't like outside of a puncher's chance, I just don't see it. And like we kind of touched on earlier, I like the co-main much better than this fight for DFS because I think Islam can definitely be priced out of the optimal. And I think, Poirier is going to be 20% owned. I'm probably happy to match that or even come in slightly under just because I think Islam wins like 95% of the time, probably.
Yeah. This is a good talk though, because 9,500. You said he could be priced out of the optimal. I definitely think I could totally see that happening here, JVC. And you guys kind of alluded to maybe being lower on him overall when you run your numbers and get your 150 out there. I could totally see being under on Islam, but he's gonna be like 50%, right? You don't think everyone's doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll be around 50%. But the thing about Poirier at 6,700, Romanov, Gall, Selecki, Oleksiejczuk, even going up price, there's a decent likelihood like all those guys bust like hard. Like we're talking like less than 20 points. So if Poirier lasts 3 or 4 rounds or gets to a decision, and he scores 40 or 50. With how great the 9K range is, you could see a situation where a double wins the fucking MME, which I would fucking hate because I'm not going to play it. But, I don't think that that's out of the equation.
Don't you dare wish that on anyone, JBC. I do not want to see that be the optimal. I would be so bad because I'm not playing that either. But if this fight goes 5 rounds, how many takedowns does Islam have? And control time
100. He's got so that's the thing. If this fight gets to a decision, it could be a double optimal of him and Poirier.
You're gonna be sad if you go under on Islam if this fight goes to a decision. Yeah. I'll tell you that right now because he's gonna score a shitload of points.
There's no chance I'm gonna be under on either one of these guys, but I like the other 5-rounder better.
Yeah,
Strickland's the best play.
Yeah, Sean Strickland, I definitely agree with you. I think he's the best play. We're all on that. All right, let's give our best bets for tonight. You can just give your favorite overall bet, whether it be money line, by method, whatever you want to give. Dan, you got a favorite bet for the people?
Yeah, I mentioned it before. I like Jake Matthews by sub. It's like plus 625.
I like that. JVC, favorite bet on the card or biggest bet, whatever you want to do.
Almeida.
Almeida.
Almeida's my biggest bet.
That is so funny because coming into the card, my favorite bet is Roman Kopylov. Oh, this is funny. So I'm not going to give that because I don't want to go against JVC's favorite bet. So I'll give a different bet. But I kind of like Jocelyn Edwards as the dog. Yeah. I'm going to go Jocelyn Edwards money line. I think it's like plus 165-ish.
My second biggest bet, Jocelyn Edwards. There you go.
Jocelyn Edwards. There we go. All right, we're back on together. We're riding for this card. I do feel like it's going to be a good card. We got to get the content up and ready over at Rumer Sports. If you want to check us out, RPS15 is the promo code. You get 15% off your first monthly or weekly over at Rumer Sports, and you can get single sports as well. You don't just have to get the all-in package. You could just get, if you just want MMA, you could just get the MMA package. Golf, whatever you want, we got it for you over here. Check us out. hit the like button on your way out of here. And hopefully everyone runs pure tonight and hit some bets or some DFS winners. Dan, good luck to you. Hopefully you have a great time at the fights tonight. JBC, I hope your big bet hits at least one of them, so then one of my big bets can definitely hit. Maybe we meet in the middle, though. Maybe Jocelyn Edwards wins big, and then it doesn't matter what happens with the other fight. But hopefully you do well as well. And, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this show. We'll be back next week, I think, if there's a fight next week.
I think we're all going to Louisville. Well, a lot of us are.
Oh, that's true. It's the Louisville card next week, right?
Me and Big T will be there in the flesh in Louisville.
Oh, you guys are going to do like a live cam. You guys got to do like a live, like from the, even if it's just like a 2-minute video and just give your favorite bets from the fight. You might get JBC live and in person for the fights there. But all right, we'll see you guys back for that card next week. For JBC, Dan, and myself, JSU. Enjoy the fights tonight.
Fuck, man,
we'll see you guys later. We're out. Peace.